Hello and welcome. This is the first of our adoption briefings, a refresher on the ISO 20022 program, CBPR+, and the broader roadmap of payments initiatives in which the SWIFT community is involved. In this, the first of our series of ISO 20022 program adoption briefings, we'll briefly recap some of the key principles and cornerstones on which you and the community are building the future of payments. First, let's quickly recap the benefits of ISO 20022. It's always worth keeping our vision in focus. We're adopting ISO 20022 because of what we can do with better quality, more structured data in our payment systems and flows. ISO 20022 is richer. It carries more data in structured and accurate form. It enables the transmission of that rich data from one end of the payments chain to the other, and enables full, structured and meaningful exchanges for us, our overseers, our supervisors, and most importantly of all, of course, our customers. ISO 20022 is very much the new natural language of financial transactions. Payment systems and schemes worldwide are adopting it in order to better serve the constantly evolving demands of compliance and efficiency. But further, and arguably more importantly, it enables the next level of interoperability across technology, as well as jurisdictional and operational boundaries, and thus it provides a platform for innovation for the benefit of all of us. You can read more about how leading financial institutions are realizing the benefits of ISO 20022 in the Document Center on the ISO 20022 Program Hub on SWIFT.com. But for now, let's quickly recap the scope of the ISO 20022 program and how it's structured. We're hoping that most of you know this already, but just in case you don't, SWIFT MTs in categories 1, 2, and 9 will be retired from the Open Fin service in November of 2025. If you send or receive MT103s, MT202s, MT940s, and MT950s today, for example, this program will certainly affect you. From November of 2022, payments in the new language called CBPR+, which is a subset of ISO 20022, are enabled on the new Interact service called Fin+. From this date, you can and should start to move your MT traffic to CBPR+. That said, there are some exceptions. Message exchanges in the SCORE service for bank to corporate and corporate to bank messaging will continue for the foreseeable future exactly as they are today. Some banks will undoubtedly encourage their corporate customers to move to ISO 20022 in order to benefit from the richer customer experience that it offers. But within the SCORE service, that will not be forced by this program. There are also some closed user groups on the Fin service today that are managed by entities other than SWIFT. These are also out of scope, but if you send or receive payments, statements, and related messages on SWIFT today, you are almost certainly going to be doing something different tomorrow, and you will need to prepare. The new language of payments is called ISO 20022. This has been refined for you by CBPR+, which is an expert group which has published a collection of message definitions designed to replace today's MTs. The full list can be seen on the CBPR+ page of the ISO 20022 Program Hub on SWIFT.com. Here on the screen are the most commonly exchanged MTs and their CBPR+ equivalents, which we call usage guidelines. These are published on My Standards, and access to them to you is free. As financial institutions, you also have free access to our translation portal on which translation rules have been published between the CBPR Plus messages and their corresponding MTs. There is also a readiness portal which enables you to test your ability to generate and test valid CBPR Plus messages. There are SWIFT Smart courses on this as well, and on the CBPR Plus landing page on My Standards there is a very useful user handbook which illustrates common business scenarios as they are supported by CBPR Plus messages. At the end, there's a slide with links to these resources. But it's not just the language which is changing. The FIN service, which carries MTs today, will not carry CBPR Plus messages. For that, you're going to need FIN Plus, which is an instance of the Interact service. As you can see, Interact has the same functionality as FIN, but of course, it's a different technology. Your interface device will be able to connect to FIN Plus, of course, but you will have to make sure that you have the right version of your interface, and you will have to order FIN Plus from the swift.com website. Some of you, of course, may want to customize your FIN Plus service as you do today with FIN. This is part of your adoption project, and you will need to give it some attention. There's a new element of our service. Our platform is not just going to route and validate messages. SWIFT's platform captures and maintains a central record of the payment transaction and enables all participants in the payment chain to see and enrich the data that they are entitled to see and enrich using the language, meaning MT or CBPR Plus, and channel, meaning FIN or FIN Plus, or even a new channel called API that they choose. In this way, MT users will be able to see the extra information coming from ISO 20022 users, and all can access central and shared features of the platform using additional channels such as API calls. The effect of our new platform means that you can adopt ISO 20022 at your preferred pace, since the platform will be handling the backward compatibility and the intermediation of message exchange using the language of each participant's choice. It also means you can honor your obligation not to drop or lose data. The central record captures everything. The SWIFT platform is not just a database. It's a new foundation by which we will be able to start mutualizing core processes along the transaction lifecycle so that intervention costs occur only where and when necessary, for example. We can also make sure that rule books, rather than just message contents, are properly validated and enforced. And using a data model which is comprehensive, properly structured, and transparent where it needs to be, and private where necessary, we're bringing a whole new approach to the orchestration of payments to reality. It also means that existing MTs can interoperate with the model during the transition window between November 2022 and November 2025, still leading towards full adoption by the whole community for all payments and cash reporting in ISO 20022 by November 2025. For those of you who are wondering where translation happens, you can see here that the platform provides that, but in a slightly different way than we had talked about before. You'll subscribe to the platform using the language, meaning MT or ISO 20022, and channel of your choice. And channel coexistence is managed through conversion capabilities in the center. That doesn't stop you from adding translation at the edge if you need it, of course. It just means you have the choice. We will also provide a new channel for those of you who want your applications to talk directly to the platform via API calls. We are bringing that option to you in the form of a Software Developers Toolkit, or SDK, starting with initial specification publication in March of 2021. RMA will again be managed centrally rather than at the edge, and thus we aim to provide backward compatibility across the 3 channels and the 2 formats. So that's what we're all preparing for. Let's now remind ourselves of the timelines. Between now and November of 2022, MT remains the standard for payments. During that time, we all need to learn the new language of CBPR Plus, at least to some extent. And those of us in the project, product, or technical areas may need also to learn about the new platform and its new channels, Fin Plus and API. Now is also a good time to engage with your vendors. Don't forget your reconciliation systems are affected, as well as your screening systems, your anti-money laundering systems, your MIS, and whatever else feeds from the payments process, as well as your SWIFT interface device and your core banking and payment systems. Your vendor may well be at an advanced stage of preparation already. Many are. By November of 2022, your transition program will need to be underway. You may well have important correspondents, customers and counterparties who are keen to exchange ISO 20022 CBPR Plus messages with you, and they may want to synchronize their adoption plans with yours. Just to reassure you again, between now and November of 2022, you will still be doing your payments and cash reporting business using MTs over Fin as you do today. From November of 2022, you will be able to start your transition towards CBPR Plus ISO 20022 messages and APIs, and by November of 2025, the entire community will be fully live on the new channels and the new language. Now, speaking of channels, let's look at the context. So far, we have concentrated on one aspect of this program, which is the upgrade to ISO 20022 of payments and cash reporting exchanges between banks. There is more. First, let's look at GPI. This year, as you know, the Universal Confirmations Rulebook is activated. By Q3 of 2021, the new ISO 20022 tracker messages will be available in pilot mode, and they'll be live in November of 2021. As you can see, the customer credit transfer and cover rulebooks, including the tracker updates, are following the same timeline as is the GFIT rulebook. By November of 2021, the GPI services here are planned to be ISO 20022 ready, including the tracker. By the time the new Fin Plus service is ready to enable ISO 20022 payments and cash reporting message exchanges, GPI, including the tracker, will be fully ready for you. The rest of the world is moving in exactly the same direction. Already, the major payments market infrastructures are on board. By 2025, more than 80% of high-value payments volume and more than 90% of value will have moved to ISO 20022-based platforms. This means, of course, that your plans for ISO 20022 need to cover your legacy correspondent banking channels, your new GPI channel, and the various market infrastructures that are moving to ISO 20022 in the same 3-year transition window. For the large-scale global transaction banks connected to multiple infrastructures, of course, this is a huge challenge. We cannot solve it all for you, but there are things we can do and are doing to provide useful information and tooling at every step on the journey to reduce the impact of this challenging program as far as is possible, and to give you as much control over your transition planning as you need. Here's a view of all the ISO 20022 programs in flight. It shows how the CBPR+, market infrastructure, corporates and securities programs look as three concurrent swim lanes. For those of you who are involved in all of this, you will already know it's a huge challenge. So let's start looking at what SWIFT is bringing to you to try to make it more manageable. First, we're providing documentation. The CBPR+ message definitions are already published on My Standards, along with several helpful tools to help you digest and understand them, including the CBPR+ User Handbook. In addition, we publish libraries of sample messages which illustrate the use cases in the UHB, and readiness and translation portals. CBPR+ messages will be carried on the Fin+ service, which is in production today, servicing securities firms affected by the Shareholders' Rights Directive and the CSD regulations. Fin+ is an Interact service which will replace Fin. It will validate CBPR+ messages and can already be e-ordered from swift.com. The CBPR+ messages themselves will only be loaded on this service later this year in November, and a formal pilot will start in Q4 of 2021. But the documentation is already available. In the first quarter of 2021, we published the first of the transaction management rulebooks and the initial set of API specifications. Now is a great time to engage with your vendors. We're working well with them, providing them with the information they need to become ISO 20022 and CBPR+ capable, and we publish a list of those who have shown us that they can indeed process and generate these messages in accordance with the CBPR+ guidelines on the vendor readiness page on the ISO 20022 Program Hub on swift.com. The GPI documentation roadmap showing the new rulebooks is as previously described, and we publish regular updates to our library of adoption guides as shown on this slide. This briefing is the first of several which we're publishing on SwiftSmart alongside the modules you can use for training colleagues on CBPR+ and on other facets of the program. I've mentioned vendors a couple of times. We're in contact with nearly 500 of them, making sure that they too are aware of the program and what they need to do to help you prepare for it. Of those, you have identified 89 high priority vendors with whom we have been working hard for the last year, helping them get their products and services ready for you nice and early. If your vendors are not able to show you their own ISO 20022 plans for the products you use, please ask them why not. They need to be ready for you, and they need to be in contact with us. There's a lot of information available. From the new 5th edition of ISO 20022 for Dummies to the detailed specifications of CBPR+ usage guidelines on My Standards, we're trying to make all the information you need available, and we'd like to hear from you if there's anything more that you think you need. The generic email address for comments and questions is iso2022program@swift.com, and all of the information that you can see on the screen in front of you is accessible from the ISO 20022 Program Hub on swift.com. Our global 24/7 support team handles the generic email inbox, so if you do have a question, you will get an answer. I would just like to draw your attention to one specific artifact that we have just added to the ISO 20022 Program Hub, and that is a budget reference guide for you for 2021. And for further information about the programs around and adjacent to the CBPR+ ISO 20022 program is available from the links on this slide. And of course, the market infrastructures whose systems you are connected to have their own documentation for you. This is the first of several briefings. Let me share with you details of the others. This is our initial schedule. All of these briefings will be posted on SWIFT Smart, where you found this one, as a collection that we call a curriculum. You already found your way to it, and we know that because you're listening to this one. Please make sure your colleagues, your vendors, and your business partners are aware of it, and encourage them to use the information we're publishing to keep themselves up to date and to help them prepare for this vital and valuable program. Thank you very much for your attention.